Hello and welcome to Healthy Knitting. My name is Rosie, your co-host, and here is Buddy, my other co-host. And today is March 16th, 2015. And you can find me on Ravelry as LESPETITSLUXES. And there is a WordPress at healthyknitting.com site where you might find some type of a show note or so. You can subscribe there. You can find me on YouTube and subscribe there. And I think that's about it. I'm on Instagram too as RDAGES. So, welcome. I have a lot of stuff, even though I've only just podcasted the other day. I have a lot of stuff to show you. My desk is jam-packed, and Buddy's going to help as best as he can. Oh, you know what? I need to pause for a minute because I need some water. Okay, I'm not really quite ready with my water yet. I just turned it on, but the alarm will go off in 5 minutes and let me know I need to stop again. So anyway, what's new and good? First of all, thank yous. I've had some people reach out to me, and thank you, and thanks for writing on the boards. I really appreciate it. And it's really a pleasure to know that something I'm doing is actually helping people. So if you have any questions or anything that I can help you with health-wise, or anything that you're curious about, please either PM me or write it over on the boards and we'll get some discussions going. Oh, I wanted to share, I'm not going to do it yet because I don't know if, I'm going to have to wait on that one. But if anybody has any recipes that are really healthy recipes that they would like to share, that would be really great over on the boards. There's been a call out for breakfast foods. And what I'm going to say about breakfast is that it doesn't need to be traditional what we think of breakfast. You can eat anything that you want any time of the day. There was a time when I was eating soup for breakfast because it felt really good, like it just energized me completely. So what foods energize you and make you feel really good, and then see if you can incorporate it into your breakfast. And there are times that I've had fish for breakfast. I know that sounds weird, but it was good. It was what my body wanted. So sometimes you can just check in with your body and go, what do I really want right now? What would really support me nutrition-wise? And see what your body has to say. So anyway, I went to knitting last week. I haven't been to knitting in a while. There's been stuff coming up, and so I haven't been able to go. So that was really fun. It was great to see my friends. And then I went out on Saturday. It was second Saturday over in Beacon, and we saw a couple galleries. And we went to a tea shop, a new tea shop that opened, but it's not just a tea shop. I mean, they have spices, and they made all of the furniture in there from reclaimed wood. The guy also has a kitchen that people can rent out and make, because it's really difficult if you wanted to make something in your house because of animals. You have to be very clean and have a space that is approved if you want to actually sell it in certain places according to laws. So he actually has a kitchen that you can rent out, which is great. He took us back there and showed us, and it was really awesome. He helps people with entrepreneurship and to get things going. He's very charitable. They've raised, I think, $8,000 one year for something, and then next year they've doubled it. I mean, and in a matter of 24 hours. Like, that is pretty incredible, and I can't remember what it was for. We kind of just went in there really quick to look, and it was right before they were closing, and then he was telling us all these wonderful things. It was really awesome. So that's a nice find. I love Beacon. They have the coolest things over there. They really do. They have people who think outside the box over in Beacon. So I really enjoyed that. And then after we went to the gallery, we went back and met with some other friends, and I was able to play a djembe, which I hadn't done in so long, and mine is broken, and so that was really, really fun. I love music, and I love sharing music with people, so that was really, really like just such a highlight. And I hadn't been out all year. It's March, and I haven't gone out to anything. So that was really, really exciting. And I'm going to go check on my water. Okay, nice hot water. So the other thing is, I live in New York, and we finally had some beautiful March weather. And I love March because although it can still get cold and snowy, there's always like 2 weeks, and it doesn't have to be in a row, but intermits, there's like 14 days of beautiful weather, and people were in shorts, and I mean, it was like 45, but people were so excited, and it felt so good. It felt really, really warm, and the sun was shining, and the snows. I can see the ground. I can actually see the ground now. Yeah, it's spring is right around the corner, and I'm super excited for that. The other thing I was going to talk to you about is I did frame my minis. I gave them to my friend at Knitting Thursday, and what I did was I have a mat cutting kit, and I played around with that, and I was able to cut it out, and I put it in a 4x6 frame. You know, the ones from IKEA that have a like a cardboard backing but a glass front and the 4 little tabs to keep the painting in. So I did that, and they came out nice. One of them, the mat moved a little. I should redo it and bring it over to her, because it bugs me that it's not perfect, but I didn't have the time to finish. But it came out nice, and that I think what I'm going to do is take one day, when I have some free time, and make a bunch of minis, and then I'm going to frame them like that, and I'm going to put them on Etsy. Might be fun. We'll see. I think they're pretty, and I like them. Whether other people think they're pretty and they would like them, I don't know, but you'll never know until you try. So one of these days, right? There's like all these things to do. We just have to prioritize of what feels good in the moment. So there's knitting done. Hi, buddy. Let me put this down. Wait. All right. My desk is a bit of a disaster here, and things are not where they normally are. So I finished I have 10 zillion patterns up here on my iPad to show you today. So this is the Raglan Jacket, number 4 from Vogue Knitting, Winter 2008-2009 by Cecily Glowick McDonald. And here's a picture of it. And as you can see, I have made some changes. I have a collar. I have my button band on incorrectly. Yeah, I noticed when I went to go put, the buttons are not on it, because I have to, if I want to be correct about having a woman's garment, I would have to flip this around. I don't know how I did this, but I did it. Anyway, here are the buttons. I don't have matching buttons, but I thought that would be fine. It'd be a little eclectic. And I'm hoping that they're going to fit. I haven't really checked. It looks like they will go through the buttonhole. They go through the buttonhole. I just didn't want them to be too loose. So they look like they might be all right. So they're just some black plastic buttons. Nothing crazy. So I don't have 5. You know what's interesting? The pattern shows 4 buttons, but the pattern actually had 5. Unless I did it totally mixed up. I have no idea. Which is possible. So they're oddballs, but I think I got these buttons. I don't even know. I have a small button box. Where's my button box? This is my button box. And the ones that are on the cardboard, those are the ones I've purchased. Everything else, I don't know where they come from. Probably off of clothes. Like if I had a piece of clothes that was so bad that couldn't be recycled, I would keep the buttons and then get rid of the item. So I have lots of buttons, and I think I might have inherited some from my mom. Who knows? But I need to now redo the band. So it is on with a clip. I still haven't found the rest of this hair piece. I may really actually have lost it. I don't know. So let me show you the garment. So it goes to here, and then it has the lace pattern. And I don't know if you can see, but it goes down to about, I don't know, the top of my thighs. And I have a little collar now. I'll tell you about the collar in a minute. And I made long sleeves. And I like the long sleeves. I like how it's extra length because I don't like short. I guess I like my wrist covered. This is why I like wristlets so much. I like these covered and warm. So, with it being lacy, it's still warm though. I wore this out Saturday night when we went out, and I thought it was going to be a lot colder because I couldn't find my fingerless mitts. I need to make some more because I gave 3 pairs away, and then I made a pair for someone else. So I'm down 3. And I have that yarn up there that I showed you I wanted to make the Winding Way mitts, and I haven't made them yet. So, and then I had a pair in a pocket that I didn't realize what coat I had them in. I found them yesterday. I was like, I was looking all over for these. So my hands were a little, they weren't cold, but I would have preferred it if I had something on my hands. Anyway, so last week I talked to you about how I changed this pattern. I made it from the top down because I didn't know how much yarn I had. I actually have a little bit left over, just a tiny bit, like 30% of the ball left, which is not a lot. It wouldn't be enough to do a pattern repeat. I could have done like a bigger collar if I wanted to, but I think this length works out just fine. So I didn't want to risk it. Plus the yarn was not the yarn called for in the pattern, so I had to rework everything, and I said I would show you how I did that. So what you do when you have a pattern and you have a different gauge yarn or even different gauge, there is an easy way to figure out how many stitches that you need on the needle. So say for example, if you're getting off your gauge just a little bit and they have different sizes in the pattern, you can figure out which size might work for you depending on your gauge. It wouldn't be as shown, but it would be working for you. So this pattern was made with a super bulky yarn, and this is a bulky yarn, so my stitch pattern, my gauge was different. So what you do is you take the gauge that they have in the pattern. So say there were supposed to be, and this is not right because this is super bulky compared to, but I'm just going to do it this way for easy math. Say there was supposed to be 6 stitches per inch. You take 6 and divide it into 1, and that will give you 1.1667. So that's how much per stitch of an inch there is. Now say the garment that I wanted had 4 stitches to the inch. So that would be 0.25. So then you take the 0.1667 and you divide it by the number you got for your gauge, which is 0.25, and the difference is 0.668. So just remember that for a second. So say for example your garment needed to be 10 inches, and so obviously 10 inches at 6 stitches per inch is 60 stitches. So you know that you had 60 stitches in your pattern, and you'd say, okay, well now I can multiply 60 times 0.6668, and that's going to tell me I needed 40.8 stitches in my new gauge to make something that is 10 inches, and that would be right because 40 times 4 stitches to the inch at 40 stitches equals 10 inches. Does that make sense? If it doesn't make sense and you need some help with that or better understanding, just let me know, PM me. But it's really easy to figure out stuff like that, and this way you don't have to, like, I actually worked backwards, so all I knew was I was binding off X amount of stitches at the top, and so I was like, okay, well if I have X amount of stitches at the top, how many do I need now in my gauge? And then I just increased backwards to make this part. So if you have a number, you actually can figure stuff out very easily, because a lot of times they'll tell you in what particular part of the pattern you have X amount of stitches, so you'll know. So don't ever feel like you can't change things because you don't know where you're at. Just as long as you know how many stitches you are and the gauge they were calling for, you can always figure out what you need to change it to. It's a piece of cake. So I knit this with Noro Hitsu, which I love very much. And as you can see when I got up, behind me is the other, I think this is 5 balls. And this is that sweater. This is inside out. But this is the sweater that I need to rip out, and I need to make something else. And I'm just debating whether I want to make it now. Well, not now because I have something else on the needles, but soon to be next. It's bright and colorful and cheery, which I think would go for spring. But I definitely don't need like heavy, warm, super warm garments anymore. But maybe I can make something. I just haven't found anything yet. Maybe I'll just design my own. I don't know. So we'll see. I prefer when I wear bulky garments that they don't completely, like I can open this up and it looks much nicer on me. I look very much, and who knows, maybe I'll even just not put on buttons and not even worry about it. Or maybe I was actually thinking of changing this band to some other way. I don't know. It's still, it doesn't quite feel like it goes with what I'm the kind of look that I'm looking for. So I might still change that. I don't know. I haven't really thought about it too terribly much. I just wanted to wear it just to be able to wear it. So all the ends are woven in, but obviously these buttons aren't on. So I might change things around. Obviously, I'm not going to keep it as it is because the buttonhole is on this side, which is just wrong. It feels so weird. I've grown up all my life with it this way, so it's an odd feeling. So anyway, let me tell you what I did with the collar. When I got up to the top, it was a lot wider, and I wanted to snug it in a little bit. So I did 1 for 1 on the front part here. So this is raglan shaping, so there's going to be a slot here, a slot for the arms, the back, a slot here for the arms, and the front. And I believe I did 1 for 1 on the front, and I may have done 2 for 3 along the shoulders and the back, and then 1 for 1. And I wound up with 38 stitches. Actually, you know what happened? At knitting, I did it, and I was like, oh, I think the length is okay. I would have had to knit just maybe a couple more rows, and I realized I forgot to pick up one, so it looked really funny, so I had to rip it all out and then redo it. But this is a super easy collar, and it's a double knit. So it's super thick so it stands up, which is what I wanted. I wanted something clean, but I don't. If you can see the collar on this, there is no collar really. Can you see? I think you can see this. There's no collar. And I just felt that looked incomplete. And I wanted something. Drop frames. I wanted something that was sleek and stylish and that would go. And I felt that this would do it. I thought this was like a modern touch to have this stand-up collar. Where I got this collar from was another pattern that I made, and I don't even have the garment anymore. I gave it to Goodwill. It was really cute. It was made with a cotton tape yarn, and it had green and yellow on it, like a green and yellow gold color. And it just didn't, the colors weren't doing anything for me. I would totally knit this cardigan again if I found the right yarn. And it's the Mirabelle cardigan by Jennifer Talapeneni. And it's in interweave. Isn't that cute? I don't know, you probably can't see it that well. Let me blow it up. It's from Interweave Spring 2008. And it was a, look at the glare. Hang on. Okay. So that's the collar. It's a nice double knit collar. You don't need anything else but the instructions in here to do it, or instructions on how to do double knit if you are already familiar with double knit. I was not before I made this, and I was like, well, that's really weird. I don't get it. But once you just do what it says and do it, it's super easy after the first, you have a setup round and then you do it, and it's like, oh my God, it's just so easy. So I just might make that again. I just need to find the right yarn. So anyway, that is my number 4 Vogue Knitting cardigan, and I love it, and my friend wants it. So now I have to actually go back and write out my instructions to give her my adjustments so that she can make this herself, which will be fun. It's a super fast knit. I think I knit it in only a few days. The bulky yarn makes it easy. Having it be lace made it fast, and except for having to redo the collar twice, it was a breeze. I mean, this wasn't difficult. It was just that I wasted time, but it was fun. I don't mind. I like double knitting. I think I'd like to do a double knitting project. Just, what did I did the stranded knitting not too long ago, and I was like, oh, that's so much fun. And the double knitting's really fun. It would be nice to make something. Isn't there a book all on double knitting? I think there is. I have a couple books, but I'm only going to review one today. But yeah, I think there's a whole book on double knitting. I should double check the library for that. So let me get rid. No, I'm not going to delete anything yet. That jinx me. So that is it for this one. I am still knitting on my socks, the plain vanilla socks. I may have gotten a little bit farther. Did I even talk to you about this last time? I don't know. The plain vanilla socks, I'm not even going to pull up a pattern because I didn't remember to pull that up. But I'm knitting these with the Cubics yarn, the Cubics needles, and I like them a lot. I think I like them better than Signature. And what, they're a lot less expensive than Signature. I know I bought these on sale. I don't know what I bought them the price at though, but I know I bought them on sale. And what's interesting is that even though this is a smaller needle, I'm using a size 0 now, which is I think a 2 point, it's a something in millimeters, and I don't know what that is. Sorry. It doesn't feel like the fabric is as dense and bulletproof as when I knit with the Signatures, so I'm not sure how that happened. It feels nice. It feels easy. I don't feel like my hands hurt when I knit this or anything. And the stitches are really tiny. I don't know if you can see, but they're real tiny. And so here's an example of my over 2 needles cast on, and I did over the Signatures, which is a size 1 needle, the smaller of the ones. You see how stretchy my cuff is? It's really stretchy. And that is with me casting on over 2 stitches. I've never had 2 stitches. What is wrong with me today? Over 2 needles. I've never had a problem with that cast on, and someone else had chimed in on the boards and said that they always use over 2 needles as well. If you've never tried it, give it a shot and see what you think, because you never know until you try. That's my whole thing is, give something a try, because you never know. And that's with everything in life, because life's too short not to try stuff. Why not? Just see if it works for you. If it doesn't, it doesn't, then you know. So anyway, my plain vanilla socks, I love this yarn. It's Aslan Trends. I keep doing this. I keep putting my needle in here, and then I'm looking all over for it, because my Signatures are colored so I can see them a little easier. This kind of blends in and I don't notice it. I'm like, where is my needle? It's right there. So it's Aslan Trends Santa Fe yarn, and it wears like iron. It's my sock staple yarn because I bought a lot of it. I do have other sock yarn, but because I know how this works, I kind of stick with it. Although I didn't go up any stitches. I do a 64-inch sock, 64-stitch sock. And I wanted to see what would happen, what the difference would be with the cubics versus the Signatures, these being a 0 and those being a 1. It doesn't feel like it's any smaller. It really doesn't. But the stitches do look smaller. So I don't know. So it's an experiment. We'll see. If they don't fit me, I can always give them away, but I'm sure that they'll be fine. Well, I'm not sure, but I'm sure they will. You never know. It's an experiment. So the other thing that I'm knitting, I hemmed and hawed and hemmed and hawed and hemmed and hawed, and took like an hour to figure out what I wanted to knit. And what I'm going to do is show you a few things, and then I'll show you what I actually started on. So I originally was looking at this from Lace Style, Tailored Scallops by Pam Allen. And why is there so much glare? So I like this book. There's a lot that's in there. If you've never seen it, if you've never seen this book, your library is sure to have it. You can check it out. And there's also all the patterns on Ravelry for you to see. I'm pretty sure that I've made some other projects out of this book, and I know I still have some more in my queue. And I love this jacket, and I want to make it with this yarn here or this yarn here. I have enough of each to make this jacket. But if you notice, those colors are very dark and they're very fall-like. Now, I don't have the yarn that is called for in the pattern, which is Taki Yarns Carry, which is a 50% alpaca, 50% wool. But what I do have is Thistle, which is 50% wool, 50% Suri alpaca. So I thought that the yarn would be a good fit. I have made other objects, I cabled cardigan with that before. You've seen that's the green one that I've worn. And I love that. It wears so well for an alpaca and merino. It doesn't really, it's not showing very much wear as I would have expected. I think I've seen more wear in Cascade 220 versus that one. I love this yarn. If you ever can get your hands on Thistle by Louisa Harding, it is amazing yarn. It is so warm. It's fun to work with. It's soft. The colors are great. So I think I'm going to make this more for a fall garment though, but I might make it in one of those two colors. So I ixnayed that. Another Cecily Glowick McDonald pattern called Hampton Cardigan. And this is from New England Knits. And I do have this book at my library. So I thought that was really cute. I do actually have the yarn that's called for in this pattern, and I have it in white. It's from Bayou Basin, Bayou Bliss, 50% yak, 50% cormo. And I have 8 skeins of it, and this only calls for like 5 or 6 or something like that. But I don't know if I want a white cardigan, so I might dye it. If I do decide to pair up that yarn with this, I might use Moreland, which is, no, I'm leaning that way. It must be behind me this way. Oh, the chair's in front of it. Classically Moreland. I have these 3 colors, and it might look nice in that. What I liked about that was that it was a long sleeve cardigan and kind of open in the front and a little bit lacy, so it's perfect for spring. So the colors that I have in Moreland, the pink one would look really nice, I think, for a spring. You can't see it now. Would look nice for a spring cardigan. I have way more of that than I need for this, and sometimes that stops me in my tracks because I have way more and I'd rather use all of it up. Why I do that, I don't know, but I limit myself then. So if I could just be like, okay, you have some extra, it's fine. So I thought that was really nice and pretty. And then there's also another cardigan very similar from Interweave Knits summer 2011 called the Adriatic Cardigan by Amy Christophers. It's very similar to that other one where it's very lacy and open. This one has buttons all the way down, but you can do whatever you want. And oops, I have yarn that it calls for Lindsay, which is it's a linen and cotton blend, and I have similar yarn like that right here. Woodland. I think this is Woodland or Thistle or Nestle. I don't know. It's one of the Classic Elite yarns, and it has linen or nettle or something in there, and that would be a good substitute. And I have enough, and I like the color for spring, and it's long sleeves, which is good because sometimes in spring it's a little chilly. And there's also the cropped cardigan from Vogue Spring Summer 2010. Now I favorited in mine one that's a little longer, and I do have a yarn, it's behind me again somewhere. I don't know. It's in there somewhere. And it is a yarn that I could substitute out in here. It's not the same yarn at all. This is like a mohair yarn, but I think the other yarn will sub okay and make it a little bit longer. Be a nice spring pattern cardigan. The other one that I have nice buttons for that I bought at Rhinebeck is called the Trina by Hilary Smith Callis. That is from Knitty, I believe. Is it? It's a free pattern. I have Classic Elite or Cascade Eco Cloud, and I think that would be a nice substitute for that. And I have only 3 skeins, so it would be just cutting it, but I think that it would work. And this is just a free pattern. I thought it was on Ravelry, but it's just free. Not Ravelry. I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on with my brain today. I thought it was on Knitty, but it's not. But that's a free pattern. The other ones that I've talked about are not free patterns. They're in magazines. And let's see. And the last one is the Anisette Cardi by Julie Farmer. And this is a free pattern, downloadable online by the maker of the yarn. I think it's the maker of the yarn because it's by Stitch Nation by Debbie Stoller, and the pattern is from Red Heart. I think they are the sellers of that yarn, makers or whatever. And although this is short sleeves, and I don't have that yarn, but what I do have is an Aran Weight yarn by Rowan, which is Amy Butler Aran, and it is organic wool, or organic cotton and organic wool. I opted for this one. I do have 7 skeins all in the same color, in the same dye lot, and then 2 more that I picked up at Webb's last year that are not in the same dye lot, but they look identical. So I have enough, period, to make this without those 2 skeins. But if I decided that I wanted to make it 3/4 sleeve, which I know I'm like, 3/4 sleeve, I don't know. So I'm not sure. I'm going to decide once I knit the body and I have the fronts and the back done, how much I have left to see if I'm going to make long sleeves or the short sleeves as called for in the pattern. So as you can see, that is the one I chose. I want to make all of them like right now and deal with this at the same time and make other things that you will see in a second. Let me just get rid of that over there for a second. Get myself back into sitting properly. So here it is. I've done the ribbing and only up to 7 pattern repeats. Excuse me. I think it's coming out nice. I love this yarn. It's discontinued now, so if you can ever find any, it's super soft, and just knowing that it's organic cotton and organic wool really was a good selling point for me, and I like their colors. I do have, this is it. I have 5 balls of this color, and so I was thinking if I did have any left over, because 5 balls is kind of short for any Erin, it's 500 yards. I could make a little small something, but if I had something that where I could do a little bit of color blocking or add some stripes in somewhere or accent color, I could use this color with that. It would look fine. So that's a consideration. So normally you use size 7 needles. I had to drop down, and what was really interesting in the pattern was that it said start with larger needles, and it calls for 2 sizes, size 6 and size 7. Start with larger needles, and then it never tells you to change them in anywhere in the pattern. And I'm like, okay, I think maybe what they meant was start with the 6s, and then once you hit the pattern, go into the 7s, because you gauge for the larger needle. And I actually had to go down a needle size. So I did the ribbing in 5s, and then I did this part on my 6s. So it's coming out nice. This is the back. It does not call for waist shaping, but I am going to put waist shaping in there. I just want to see how long I want it. I might start the waist shaping next round, because you can make this a little bit longer, and it is actually short, because I normally make mine as a 14 from under the arms, and I think this is 13. So I'm going to add an inch regardless to how they have it. That's the beauty of knitting. We can do whatever we want, right? So anyway, that is the project I'm working on right now. And what else was I going to tell you? I did actually write notes today. Oh, so for subbing yarn, sometimes people get caught up and they are like, I don't have the yarn called for, I don't know what to do. If you're subbing yarn, it's always good to look at the content of the yarn first. Like, are they using wool? Is it silk? These kinds of yarns are completely different, where one has give and stretch and the other does not. So you want to look at the content of what it is that they called for in the pattern. Then you want to look at the size. The size doesn't always matter as much as, to me, as the content and the type of yarn that it is. Like, is it a worsted spun? Is it a woolen spun? Is it a cabled yarn? Like, what is it that's needed in that pattern to provide that type of fabric? Like, if you always look at it like as a fabric thing, you'll see things differently. It's the same thing when you're getting gauge. If the gauge you're matching is spot on, but it's bulletproof, it's not going to have the same properties as if you actually changed the needle size, got a fabric that was nice, and then adjusted according to what you needed. So to me, sometimes you have to be careful when you're putting all of those things together, when you're changing out yarns. And when I first started, I was only looking at, is it the same gauge? And I never really looked past that, and I made lots of garments that didn't look or feel or have the same essence of what the pattern was, because I didn't choose the right yarn substitute. So, a woolen spun yarn is going to look different than a worsted spun yarn. and it's going to work better for certain projects than others. Silk has a lot of drape to it. Alpaca has a lot of drape to it. There's not a lot of give and bounce back where wool has bounce back. So just keep that in mind when you're changing things out. The type of yarn, what makes up that yarn, and then lastly, I think it's to figure out the gauge, because our gauges can be different on a lot of things, and still you can get the same gauge on Catalura's here, get gauge on a yarn that's just not going to work for that project. So keep that in mind. And looking up on Ravelry is very helpful too. You can actually sort on lots of different things and finish projects and see what happens, because a lot of times people will write, oh, I frogged this. They kept the project up instead of deleting it, frogged it, and they said this yarn was not the right yarn for this project, and that was probably why, because it might have gotten gauge, but the constitute of the yarn was not right for that pattern. So things to keep in mind. I have no spinning, but I did want to show you something that I thought I might make. I didn't show you these last time. I showed you that big bin of all of the little 1 ounce pieces of different types of yarns I had, but I didn't show you this. And hi baby, I put these together. These are all 2-ply yarn, and they're all like a semi-worsted spun yarn. And I thought the colors went nicely together. And what I want to make, one of my friends at Knitting is making this, and although this is not a worsted weight yarn, and this from O Wool pattern is calling for a worsted weight yarn, I have seen some people do it in a DK. It's the Bluebell Hill Scarf by Jocelyn Tooney. And now they put this beautiful blue in there, and I'm still searching to see if I have anything that would be a nice accent color. I might just do a little swatch to see if these 3 colors are not boring. They might be boring. They almost match what I'm wearing, don't they? Well, that's not that boring. But the blue really added something. So if I could find a blue, I might, because these are really the 2 of the colors in there that constitute that pattern. If I have a blue somewhere, maybe I'll do that. But if not, I'm not sure. But it's something that I'm thinking about. I put these 3 together and I thought they would look nice together. And someone was able to make the full scarf in the DK, just changing the weight. And it doesn't have to be a really thick. I have plenty of really warm scarves, but what I was looking for was something a little more drapey. And so if I did this on larger needles and it was a little wispier, that would be more of something that I'd be going for. So that's a possibility down the road. Okay, hi baby. What else did I have to show you? Hang on, I'm just gonna break and have a drink. I was really thirsty. Okay, so I think I've showed you everything on my iPad that I need to show you, so I'm going to shut that off. So let me talk about this book that I got from the library. And it's called Lovely Knitted Lace by Brooke Nico. This is a really cute book, and I was actually very surprised because it's a new book and it was able to be interlibrary loaned. And it's from the Nyack Library, which most of the time, if it's a brand new book, they allow only the local holds only. But I don't know when this actually came out, but I've never heard of this book. And I don't think I've heard anybody talk about this book before. So I just picked it up the other day. I have quite a few things to show you. I like the way this book is laid out. And you might want to see if you can, it's by Lark Books, if you can get this at your library and have a look at it first before you decide whether you want to purchase it or not. But I thought that there were a lot of projects in here that could be for beginning knitters and to more advanced knitters. What's really impressive about that I liked about the book is that there's sections of the type of style. Is it a square knit? Is it a circle knit? Triangle? So they have it separated by that. But they also have a lot of information about lace, how to do charts, how to make different cast-ons, which is helpful if you don't know how to do that. You don't have to go anywhere else. It's right in this book. So I believe that everything you need to know, except for like how to knit, is in here. So you do have to know how to knit, but it tells you how to fix mistakes, how to do a bind off. So here are the triangle section. And here's a little triangle tulip shawl, which is very pretty. And it's made out of worsted weight yarn, so it's big, so it'd be great for a beginner knitter. You don't have to fiddle around with small yarn. I know a lot of people, they don't like to knit with lace, and I love knitting with lace yarn. I love knitting with all the different ones. I prefer almost smaller over bigger because the needles are so, when you have to use big needles, it can be kind of clunky, but I also like making worsted weight shawls, but I like the regular ones on lace. I have cobweb yarn, which I have not used yet, which I will one of these days. So that'll be a lot different. But anyway, so if you're new to knitting lace, I think this book would be really good because of the type of diversity that's in here. And I don't think it ever says whether it's easy or not, but no, there aren't any things on here that tell you whether it's great beginner or not, but I think from my perspective, it looks like there's a good range in here. So the charts are very simple to read. They're all laid out on their own page most of the time so that it's very easy to see, and you could put, whatever, if you didn't. A lot of people make photocopies and then they go off the photocopy so they could tick and check and things like that if they don't have the magic tape. I pretty much use a piece of paper or my phone and I stick it on there, and say for example, you read the chart up this way. I will put it this way on the top so that the row I'm reading is underneath. So I always get to see everything I've done, but not what I haven't done yet. And that makes it really easy for me to do charts. There's a little shawl, a flutter shawl. I didn't like that one that much. A poppy shawl, and it's just not my thing. This is cute. Here's a garment. So there are 3 shawls already, and here's a garment. I love this. I think it's really pretty. I know I would not look good in it because of the style of the neck for me. If I could change that into a V-neck, it probably would look better. But I'm not going to bother since there are other ones that I can find that would be a V-neck. And now we're into rectangles. So here's rectangles. And they have some cute things in here. This is a nice little scarf. You can't really see there's a little pattern throughout it. It doesn't look like it would be too boring for a shawl. I really need to get it together. It doesn't look like it would be very boring for a scarf, because you know how sometimes you keep doing the same thing over and over again. You're like, when is this going to end? And it's 6 feet long and you're like asking that at a foot long. But this looks like it'd be interesting enough to keep you wanting to knit the whole thing. I think it's very pretty, nice yarn choice. Oh, it's Bijou Basin, Tibetan Dream, which is yak and nylon. Actually, I think I have one skein of that in a brown. Lovely yarn. So looks like they're using some nice yarns in here, which, if anything, choosing a nice yarn to knit a scarf like that would be perfect. So anyway, I like that scarf. Here's another one. This is the cables and lace stole, which you can make in 2 different ways. You can join it together for a cowl, or you can knot and then just have it be a big scarf. And there's a butterfly stole. This is pretty. It's not something I would make, but I think the stitch pattern is very pretty. It's just 2 rectangles and then you sew up a side, and then you have your shawl that way. The Posies wrap, which is not something that I would look good in, but looks very interesting to make. A bolero, which I'm not fond of. Here we are at circles. And circular shawls, I have a couple of circular shawls in my queue, but I don't really know how to wear them to show off that it's a circle. So I kind of have shied away from making them because they're so intricate and beautiful, but then once you fold them over, you kind of miss that. I don't know, maybe I'm missing something myself, I don't know. But there's a very pretty one in here made with mohair. So this is how she's wearing it. So you can still see that it's circular, but I don't know how comfortable that is to, you're not going to be walking around like that. So this was cute though. This is a poinsettia jacket. So here's one that is a circle that's wearable. So that looked really fun. There really isn't too much of a full picture of the front. I would have to go to Ravelry to see that. This is what a little bit of what it looks like right there. But it looks pretty. I like the yarn. The yarn color is gorgeous. Actually, what kind of yarn is that? It is Wakiwi, Merino Alpaca, and Possum. So again, looks like she's using some really nice yarns in here. Here's a little caplet or a skirt, but I can't see wearing that as a skirt unless you're 5. Here is a nice little beret, orange crush beret. I thought that was really pretty. Again, doesn't look very complicated. If you are a newer knitter, it looks like you would be able to make these things okay. This is something that I love, and I really want to make this. And it's made with cashmere, silk, and wool. And I'm thinking how fun it would be. I have a Cornmeal fleece. If I could spin that really fine, I think that would really work out for this. But I would have to really be careful of how I spun it because Cornmeal can be kind of springy. But anyway, this is the back. And let me show you the front. This is the front. I thought it was beautiful. I don't normally wear things like this, but there's something about this that every time I look at it, I'm like, oh, that's even more pretty. You ever look at something once and you're like, oh, that's pretty. And then you look at it again, you're like, wow, that's really pretty. And then every time you see it, you're like, oh my God, I gotta make that. That's how I feel about this. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so pretty. So yeah, I just fell in love with that. And if I spin for that, that's gonna be a long ordeal of a process, but the yarn in this is just gorgeous. And I do have that beautiful white soft Cornmeal. There was Cornmeal it was lace weight Cornmeal at New York Sheep and Wool. And who was it by? I can't remember, but it's in one of the buildings downstairs. And it is soft, like it feels like cashmere. It is so soft. It's just amazing. And I'm like, I didn't buy it because I have like 1.5 pounds of, or even more, almost 2 pounds of the most beautiful not roving, because it's carded, it's combed, Cornmeal combed top that is absolutely amazing. And I'm like, don't buy it. You have your own. You can make your own. So when I saw this, that's what popped in my head. I'm like, oh, I can make my own. So we'll see. We'll see. So then there's another big square shawl in the back. Oh, we didn't get to squares. Squares. Looks like there's only 4. I don't particularly like the squared items that are here. It's okay. The Dahlia shawl, it's just a square. You can make it and have it be a blanket. I don't know. Square shawls don't make any sense to me. Here she is wearing it doubled over. I don't want to show too much of that chart there. Sorry. And that's pretty, but then my whole point is, why don't you just make a triangle? I don't know. There's the top, and it's a little weird, and I don't understand the construction. But the other thing, oh, this was cute. This was different. It's called the Birch Jacket. So let me show you the back. This is the back. So that was interesting. Just different construction, something I had not done before, and so this book is very interesting to me. There's one other shrug at the end here. It's okay. But what else is interesting is at the backs, she has motifs for exploration at the back. So other things that you can exchange in and out for, and they're really pretty. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different motifs. So a fun book, worth looking at anyway. And the other book that I'm going to talk about, but next week, if I still have it, is Graphic Knits. Someone else talked about it, and I can't remember who. And my library actually, again, had it for interlibrary loans. So let me see what else I have. I don't think I have anything else except for healthy tips, so hang on. You know what? I forgot to show you. I'm still trying to think of my healthy tip, and I don't have it yet, but I wanted to show you on this cardigan why I have a tail that's still connected to a ball. And what I do when I have a large number of cast-ons for something, instead of wasting a lot of yarn trying to measure out to see where I am, I take 2 pieces of yarn. Let's just go this way. So say I'm going to cast on from here. I'll use the outside of the ball, and then I'll use the inside of the ball for the one that I'm going to be keeping as my working yarn. And I do my loop, and I keep the one on top. That is the yarn that's coming from the ball that I want to keep, the one that I'm taking out of the center pull. That is always on the top, and the one that is from the spare ball that is going from the outside is on the bottom. And that is when I use those for my long tail cast on. And I don't know, I just think this is one of the best ways to get a nice, crisp, even cast on. You never count these 2 as stitches. When you take this off and you only have one on the needles, when you go back and say we're going to knit these, let's just knit them on. So I've done my cast on now. I'm doing my first row of whatever it is that's called for in the pattern. And when I get to those last 2, I just pull them off the needle and undo it. And there it is. You have 2 ends to weave in instead of 1. But for me, if I know I only have so much yarn and I don't want to waste any, I just find that if I have a lot of stitches to cast on, this is the easiest way for me to know that I have enough. I'm not going to run out, and then I know that I haven't overused too much. Sometimes people like to leave a long tail to weave up the side, and I've done that before, certainly. It all depends on what you're looking for in your project. So I just wanted to share that little tip with you. It's something that I use all the time, and I did on this project. And I won't cut it until I'm sure that I'm not keeping it. I'm pretty sure this is going to fit. I've measured it out. It feels fine to me. There's nothing wrong with that. But I want to get a little farther up on here before I for sure know that everything is right with my gauge and everything is good. Because ribbing can be a little bit interesting. You know, you can stretch it to whatever size you want. But it's the stocking knit part that really is going to make a difference as to whether this is the right size that I'm looking for. Which is another reason why I like pieced patterns. I really do. I can lay it flat and measure it. And I don't have to wait till, you know, sometimes when you're working in the round, you have to wait quite a while before you really can flatten it out on your needles and be like, oh yeah, this is the right size. And it's not, and you've knitted like 8 inches. So anyway, that's why I like flat. That's my little trick for over 2 needles with 2 balls of yarn. I don't know if I really have a healthy tip right now. Nothing is singing to me. Nothing's coming to me. So, sorry, but I gotta get moving now. It's already late today. I wanted to podcast yesterday, but I wound up just doing this instead. So, anyway, have a great day. Thank you very much for watching, and join the group over on Ravelry if you're so inclined. Thanks.